afternoon. You're watching the English newscast here on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim, and these are the news trending today. At least 90 people are killed in overnight airstrikes by the Syrian government and Russian forces across Syria as the city of Manbij is completely cleared of Daesh. Lebanese civil defense volunteers say they will erect a tent along the border with Israel in a symbolic protest for financial and social benefits. And police are continuing their search for the suspects behind a series of bomb blasts across Thailand that killed 4 people and injured more than 30. At least 90 people have been killed in overnight airstrikes by the Syrian government and Russian forces across Syria. Monitors and opposition activists say most people were killed around the Aleppo province, where more than 300,000 civilians are trapped in rebel-held territories. The air raids hit the only hospital for women and children in the town of Kafr Hamra, killing 2 staffers, including a nurse, while 10 people were rescued from the rubble. Airstrikes also hit a market in the nearby town of Uram al-Kubra, killing at least 6 people, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Russia's military announced a 3-hour daily halt in airstrikes in Aleppo to allow humanitarian convoys in on Thursday, but the UN said it was not nearly long enough to help trapped civilians. US-backed forces say they have taken full control over the northern city of Manbij after the last Daesh fighters had pulled out. They had said earlier that they had launched a final assault to flush the remaining militants out of the city on the border with Turkey. The announcement came as Russian and Syrian jets pounded rebel positions in and around Aleppo, killing at least 20 people. Also Friday, Turkey vowed to cooperate with Iran on resolving the conflict in Syria during a visit by the Iranian foreign minister to the Turkish capital. Now for some news in Lebanon, an army unit inspected an unexploded bomb discovered in the northeastern border village of Al-Qa'a, believed to be left over from the recent suicide attacks in the town. The national news agency reported that the bomb was found at a location hit during the June 27 attacks, killing 5 and wounding about 30. It is not clear if the army unit detonated the bomb. Lebanese civil defense volunteers say they will erect a tent along the border with Israel in a symbolic protest to push the government to implement a decree granting them financial and social benefits. Today's announcement is the latest turn in a long-running issue between the government and the country's ambulance drivers and firefighters. After months of demonstrations and nationwide road closures, the government approved a decree in February that would pave the way for full-time employment and benefits for the corps of 2,400 volunteers that make up the country's emergency first responders group. Speaking at a news conference in Beirut's Martyr Square, civil defense worker spokesperson Youssef Mallah lamented the slow implementation of that decree and said they were ready to take escalating measures in that sense. Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has called on rivals to shield the military from political feuds. In remarks to Al Jumhuriya Daily, Berri said, quote, "The institution is a security valve of the country and it's forbidden to destabilize it for any reason." He completely rejected the idea of a vacuum at the leadership of the military institution. Defense Minister Samir Muqbil recently said he may sign off on another extension for Army Commander General Jean Ahwaji's term, which expires in September. The extension of Ahwaji's term by a year last August infuriated the Free Patriotic Movement, which prompted the party's 2 ministers to boycott cabinet for 2 months. Kataeb supporters forced workers at a landfill under construction in Bush Hamoud to halt their work. The workers were also forced to leave the site. Today's action comes just 2 days after dozens of the Kataeb party's youth wing clashed with police to protest the construction of the landfill. Internal security forces initially prevented the protesters from entering the site, but later allowed a delegation to enter. Kataeb Party Chief Sami Jmail earlier this week cautioned against doing in Bush Hamoud what was done at the Naam landfill, namely treating just a small portion of the waste. Coming up next, the U.S. government declares a public health emergency in Puerto Rico as a result of a Zika epidemic. Stay with us. Welcome back. Turkey's Prime Minister says Ankara could not compromise with the United States over its request for the extradition of Islamic cleric Fethullah Gulen, which it blames for orchestrating last month's attempted coup. Gulen, for his part, denies any involvement in the attempted putsch in which 240 people were killed. Prime Minister Binali Yildirim made his comments to a group of Turkish journalists after announcing that U.S. Vice President Joe Biden will visit Turkey on August 24. The UN Security Council has approved the deployment of an additional 4,000-strong peacekeeping force in South Sudan after recent fighting threatened to send the country back to all-out civil war. In response to the vote on Friday, a spokesman for President Salva Kiir said the government would not accept the UN's decision and would not cooperate with it.
The result of the voting is as follows: 11 votes in favor, 4 abstentions. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolutions 2304 of 2016.
We recognize the importance of government cooperation, but the United States would point to the actions of the government. For while we expect the South Sudanese government to treat the United Nations like the partner that it is, that is simply not what is happening on the ground in South Sudan today. Fighting in Juba surged. Soldiers killed innocent civilians. This council can only deliberate for so long about the terms of a mandate as the situation in South Sudan deteriorates, as more and more innocent people are killed, women and girls are raped, and the country's neighbors call for action and express a readiness to respond. More time will amount to only more death and more suffering. This council today has taken a step forward in our efforts to prevent that from happening. The stakes are high, and the consequences of continued obstruction should be clear. By this resolution, the Security Council has made very clear that if the government of South Sudan obstructs the deployment of the UNMISS's Regional Protection Force or continues to stand in the way of UNMISS carrying out its mandate, the Security Council is prepared to vote on the arms embargo resolution that is annexed to the text we adopted today. The United States is prepared to support imposing an arms embargo on South Sudan if this obstruction continues. If in 30 days the Secretary General reports obstruction, this Council has decided to vote, and we are confident that consequences will follow.
Moving on to Thailand, police are continuing their search for the suspects behind a series of bomb blasts across the country that killed 4 people and injured more than 30, including tourists. The country was on edge after 11 small bombs exploded across 5 southern provinces on Thursday night and Friday morning. The bombs, most of them detonated in double blasts, struck key tourism hubs during a long weekend. More in this report.
Thailand is reeling after a series of bomb blasts ripped through the southern part of the country. The attacks killed 4 people and wounded dozens of others. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha appealed for calm.
I would like to urge all Thais and the media not to panic. The government will investigate this and we will bring whoever is responsible to court.
Among the towns hit were 3 of the country's most popular resorts, and the blast come as Thailand is celebrating one of its biggest holidays, Queen Sirikit's birthday. Tim Kelleher from Ireland says the blast has turned the resort of Hua Hin into a ghost town.
This whole street should be packed with tourists, shops. Instead, it's killed us.
The bombings come after months of unrest leading up to the August 7th constitutional referendum. Many Thais were hoping the vote would lead to a period of peace, but businesswoman Thanaporn Natanan says those hopes have been dashed.
Who will want to come here now? The economy was about to get better, but now it will go down again. This is bad.
Hua Hin is home to the Klai Kangwan Royal Palace. The name translates as far from worries, but the bombing attacks have made it clear that Thailand's worries are far from over.
The U.S. government has declared a public health emergency in Puerto Rico as a result of a Zika epidemic. The declaration allows the federal government to award grants, access emergency funds, and temporarily appoint personnel where needed. among other things. This comes after Florida Governor Rick Scott said the state has 3 new non-travel related cases of the virus, but said all of the state's 25 cases have been confined to one neighborhood in Miami. The mosquito-borne Zika virus has spread to more than 50 countries and territories since the outbreak began last year in Brazil. A legendary Cuban cigar maker breaks his own record for rolling the world's longest cigar at 90 meters in length to mark the 90th birthday of Cuba's revolutionary leader Fidel Castro. Mana Rabia reports.
72-year-old Cuban Jose Castelar Cairo, better known as Cueto, has been rolling cigars since he was 5. He already had the world record for the longest cigar rolled, but now he's breaking his own record to help mark the 90th birthday of Cuba's retired revolutionary leader Fidel Castro. The monster cigar is the length of a soccer field.
It measured a little over 90 meters, and we cut it off there so it would measure 90 on behalf of workers and tourism to celebrate tomorrow's birthday of our dear commander Fidel.
Castro ruled Cuba for half a century. He was often seen puffing his favorite slim cigars until he quit the habit in the 1980s. Cueto's record-long cigar took 10 days to roll with the help of assistants in this colonial-era fort in Havana. The British Embassy was on hand to confirm the record and to alert the UK-based Guinness World Records.
A second resort on the French Riviera coast, Villeneuve-Loubet, announced a ban against burkinis after Cannes banished the full-body swimsuit from its beaches. The town's mayor said he made the decision to bar the burkini worn by some Muslim women because of sanitary reasons. The mayor of Cannes said he had signed off on the burkini ban out of respect for good customs and secularism, a founding principle of the French Republic. But prohibiting the burkini has caused an uproar, with anti-racism organizations and human rights groups vowing to go to court to seek to overturn what they called the deeply worrying ban. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. At least 90 people are killed in overnight airstrikes by the Syrian government and Russian forces across Syria as the city of Manbij is completely cleared of Daesh. Lebanese civil defense volunteers say they will erect a tent along the border with Israel in a symbolic protest for financial and social benefits. And police are continuing their search for the suspects behind a series of bomb blasts across Thailand that killed 4 people and injured more than 30. Those are your top stories for this Saturday. I'm Linda Tamina. Thank you all for watching.
And the media not to panic. The government will...